We're excited. We're back with another chat room, and we are here with AJ of the Wealthy Idiots. And we love your videos. You're kind of in a similar lane, but I'd love for you to just start by kind of saying what your channel's about, and what you hope to share with your audience.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so my buddy DC. So I think one of the reasons I gravitated towards you guys was there's two guys, reacting to Dave Ramsey's stuff, and then me and my buddy DC, we started up together, kind of the same concept. And what we did was we kind of figured out through Facebook that we were both really interested in this finance stuff, and then we both kind of figured out that we have really similar views on it, and that our journeys kind of looked a lot the same. We were investing and trying to push stuff forward. We didn't really know what we were doing, so we both went all in on the research bit. And then now, I think for our channel, we also have a website, wealthidiots.com, where we write articles and stuff. And the idea is just, can we teach this to as many people as possible? And I think that our goal is to try and bridge a gap. I think most people, they fall into the Dave Ramsey camp, and then you have, very advanced finance stuff that's out there. And I think most people are, once they get past the Dave Ramsey bit, like, okay, now what do I do? Because that's both of us did the same thing. We did the Dave Ramsey stuff for a while, and then we're like, what do we do next? And we were accumulating, either cash or investments we knew very little about. Mm-hmm. And the idea was just like, okay, now what do we do? How do we learn that? And then once we kind of figured that out, we're like, can we teach other people that? Right.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I definitely think it's really cool because I especially love your website, and kind of how you put a lot of this stuff there, and you even have like calculators built in to help people kind of understand stuff, and it's just really good how, I mean, you go quite in depth, but you cover so many topics. Mm-hmm. And how much of like what you cover would you say is just stuff that you've learned through this process now? Because again, you have like a lot of posts, a lot of videos, so you've been doing it a couple of years.
Yeah, definitely. So I think you had commented on it in when we were talking before, which was like, when you kind of do this teaching thing, you're kind of forced to have to learn it better. Yeah. Right? It's one thing to feel like you understand it for yourself, and it's a totally different thing to feel like, oh, I got to explain this to somebody else now. Right? And you're kind of forced to have to learn more information about that thing. And I've found that to be really cool. And people have asked questions that I hadn't thought of before. The biggest kick that we've been on recently has been like cash value life insurance. Is somebody had asked us about that, and somewhere around the same time, Dave Ramsey had like a small clip where he just railed on it. Yeah. And I have this like, I don't know if it's like programming or like anti-authority programming in my brain. That's like, if someone in authority says that I shouldn't do it, I probably should do it, or at least I should figure out like more information about it.
Yeah.
So I set out to try and find like how, cash value life insurance would fit into a financial plan. That was a little over a year ago. And then only recently did we start actually talking about it, because we didn't feel comfortable enough to like say things. And even I still qualify things. I'm like, I don't know everything about this, but this is what I figured out. And I'm like, if you're a cash value life insurance person, feel free to comment and we'll talk about it. Mm-hmm. Right. And so, I'm doing book reviews and stuff now. It's just been a lot of fun, like just learning more stuff. In some cases, it's learning stuff that I wouldn't get into, but people have asked about it. So that's really expanded my own understanding, which has been really cool.
Yeah,
it's awesome. I'll go with a question I have for you. What is your number one investment, like as far as like what do you have the most capital in, like real estate, IRA, those kind of crypto, those categories? Like where's your most value?
Definitely. Actually, I have my spreadsheet somewhere. Let me see. We can cut out this pause. I thought I had it open. There it is. So I'm not going to give full numbers or anything.
Yeah, that's
because I haven't, dedicated myself to doing that on my channel yet either.
Right. No,
so I got to at least start with that,
Yeah.
But right now I'm at 54% in real estate, about 16.2% in the stock market. That's mostly index funds. 14.3 in retirement. That's my 401k and Roth IRAs, which are primarily either in index funds or, really safe, low cost mutual funds. For my 401k, like you don't get a choice. I mean, you get a few choices essentially, right? But if index funds aren't in there, you can't choose those. So I've got it in like a mutual fund that kind of follows the S&P 500, which is also the index fund I like the most. I've got 3.8% in crypto, which is almost all in Bitcoin, like a little bit of Ethereum, but I don't play around with the little fad coins and stuff. And I got 6.3% in precious metals, which is almost exclusively gold. And about 3.8, so almost 4% in cash, and like 1.6 in other, which, if I'm being honest, I have no idea what that is. Oh, you know what? That might be cars. Yeah.
Okay.
Like, because
cool.
I'm just counting the value of the car. Like, that's all that is.
That's awesome, man.
Has that?
Yeah.
Would you say that has markedly changed, like since you started doing the channel? Like, how? Well, I'm curious then. Like, has it just made you more targeted and more aware? I mean, I guess it has to have.
Yeah, I'll give you my quick journey, background. So, I didn't know what I was doing. I did the Dave Ramsey plan, and then I got to the bit where it was like, do the investing, right? And I didn't know what to do. But I have this thing of like talking about the authority bit. I don't like outsourcing that stuff. I'd rather figure it out myself. So I didn't like the idea of going to a financial advisor. I wanted to do it myself, but I put that off. I was like, I'm busy right now. I got stuff going on. I'm not going to worry about that right now. So huge amounts of my net worth. I mean, I had a 401k obviously, but the rest was all in my company stock because that's how they give out bonuses where I work. And you have the employee stock purchase plan, and I maxed out on all that stuff. Well, we hit some bump. It was like 2017, maybe 2018, in the stock market. And my entire net worth just plummeted like real fast. And I was like, like this is what they mean about diversification, right?
Right.
So I kind of waited a little bit. The market came back. I didn't panic sell or anything. The market came back, and I went pretty much all into real estate. So I didn't even diversify even after that. I was just like, what happened was my girlfriend, who's now my wife, at the time we were watching this Netflix show, which was about Airbnbs. And I can't think of what the name of the show is called now. But the whole thing was in Austin. And I was sitting there. What was that?
Was it Fix Upper?
Oh, that doesn't sound familiar, but it could be.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, no worries. So as we were watching it, and I was like, I wonder how much houses cost in Austin. So I pull it up on Zillow, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, I could buy one of these right now. Yeah. Like I can't buy where I live. In San Jose, houses, you could get a shack under the freeway for like over $1 million. But in Austin, stuff was reasonable, right? So I was like, I'm going to go do that. So I went all in. I took every dollar I had that wasn't in my 401k and probably about $500 on a credit card, which I immediately paid off, the following paycheck. But everything I had into this one property, and man, I wouldn't do that again. Like I wouldn't recommend people do that either. That was very nerve-wracking. And I was like so concerned about getting that rented out, which was, is always a bad thing. I went with a bad management company because I was just so worried that I was just like, I got the first people I could. Since then I figured all that stuff out, and we're in a really good place. And then each subsequent property has been a lot better. And then somewhere maybe a year or so ago. So I was also buying index funds along the way, but it was not balanced. Like, I just quoted, about 30% of my portfolio is in retirement and index funds, and 50% is in real estate. It was probably closer to like 5 to 10% were in index funds, and like 75 plus was in real estate. And so now I'm on a journey to fix that. So I'm going harder at index funds now and kind of backing off on real estate a little bit, to try and get this to a place where ultimately I want to be at about 35% real estate and about 35% stocks or index funds specifically. I think that's a better balance.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, it's fascinating to me too because you're talking about Austin being cheaper, and we know people that have moved to where we're at, which is Chattanooga, from Austin because it was too pricey, and so I'm just like, oh man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like the market here is so insane to the point where all that looks the same to me.
Yeah.
Right? Like a 3-bedroom house that's nice would go for 1.5 or over here easily.
Really?
And when I was buying my first property in Texas, I paid about $300K. And it was a 4-bedroom, it had a pool, and it was over 2,000 square feet. Like all that fried my brain that you could buy that for $300K.
Right.
Yeah. That's crazy.
I got one more question for you.
Yes,
So
sir.
since you started your YouTube channel and your financial
Hold
path,
on.
is it me?
All right, sorry, go ahead. I lost
Okay.
your audio for a second there.
No, you're fine. So since you've started your YouTube channel and just continuing to talk about finances, how has like YouTube impacted your finances, or has it, or do you plan on that being a factor? And you don't have to give me numbers or anything, but just the impact that it's brought to your financial situation so far in your journey.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, to kind of rewind it back to what I was saying before, it's forced me to learn things I probably wouldn't have put any effort into learning. It's also forced me to kind of solidify what my plan looks like and why that's the correct way to go. Right? Because if I'm going to sit here and argue with people like Dave Ramsey or a lot of these cash value life insurance people and kind of know like, okay, this makes more sense. Like you should do it this way when talking to people. I've got to make sure that that's actually true.
Right.
So, when I'm looking at the data and I'm saying like, this is the best thing to do, then I got to go back and prove that that's the case and then present that to people with sound arguments or data or charts to try and say that that's accurate. Otherwise it's not. And then it's kind of changed my view a little bit on certain things. Right. So I probably wouldn't have got into crypto like as a percentage of my portfolio at all had I not been doing this. I'm definitely harder on index funds now than I would have been at the start. Right. Like I went into real estate super hard, really fast, because that was the thing I was researching so hard. And I also had stuff in index funds, but I also had no idea what that looked like. Right. So then S&P 500 as an app over its existence, 10.5% if you're just starting to count it in like the 80s or something like 70s or 80s or something like that. Right. I wouldn't have been able to quote those numbers before. I was just sticking my money in index funds and being like, well, I hope that works out. And if you look at my index fund portfolio, it's like this shotgun blast of index funds that like, so because I was Googling, when I first started out, I was Googling like best index funds and an article would pop up and I'd buy like the first 3.
Right. Yeah. Vanguard.
Yeah. And so I probably have like 20 to like 25-ish different types of index funds. And the overwhelming majority of it is in the stuff I've now decided is a good place to go. So I really like the S&P 500 index funds and I really like the full market index funds. And I go 50-50 in each. And the reason for that is something I also learned after having done all this is that they match each other pretty well. The S&P 500 does a little bit better than the whole market, but not by much. It's like a fraction of a percent. So, you're getting pretty much the same growth, but you can also tax loss harvest between the two, which means that if you have a purchase of the S&P 500 index fund and that loses money, but you gained money over here in the full market, you could sell that for the loss and then you could sell in the full market for the same amount and you pay 0 taxes.
Wow.
Right? Because it looks on your balance sheet as 0, right?
Gotcha.
Then what you're allowed to do is you could take that loss from the one and you could just buy the other. Because the law says that the tax law says that you can't buy the same investment after you've tax loss harvest, but you can buy something that's different enough. Well, it turns out the S&P 500 and the full market is considered different enough by the IRS. So as long as I can pull the cash out of that and take the loss on paper, move it over to the other fund, right? Then I can show losses that I didn't really have, which saves me in taxes. So that's why I picked those two specifically, and I go 50-50 in each. So that's something I would never have done before.
That's awesome.
That explanation alone is why we ourselves are going to go rewatch this video.
Yeah.
So, well, I'll ask my one last question because we don't want to hold you too much longer too. You mentioned earlier, not panic selling your work stock. And, a lot of this, we're thinking long term, what you want your life to be like in 5, 10 plus years. But you do cover a lot of topical, stories, way more than we do, I would say. Why is that important to you? And do you feel like that affects like how you approach your finances?
To some degree, yes. So in the video that we did the react to, we talked about positive arbitrage, right? Which is, quick recap is you take out debt for less than what you think you can invest that money for. So, 5% debt, 10% in the S&P 500 means that you're positive 5%, right? And that could work on purchasing cars, houses, other investments even. If you can get debt less than what you think you're going to make in your investment, within reason, like, with a lot of research, that's called positive arbitrage. That is significantly impacted right now because of the interest rate environment, right? So there's two things that impacts. One is as the interest rates go up, companies are not, like they do arbitrage with cash as well, right? So like if you're a giant company and you're like, hey, look, we can get this debt over here for 1% and we could turn around and invest it in all this stuff over here to grow our business. Why wouldn't you do that, right? So even Elon Musk did that to buy Twitter, right? He didn't take out his Tesla stock and then just go purchase Twitter with it. That's a huge tax hit for him, right?
Yeah.
So what he did instead was he's like, look, Tesla stock I think is going to grow at an average of, whatever percent per year. I'm going to go take this 1% loan from Bank of America and go buy Twitter with it, right? Because he doesn't want to take that tax hit on selling his stuff. He doesn't want to like lose out on that growth. And that's how he did that, right? So I think that in the current environment, that might not have been as easy for him to do with the way that interest rates are. And the Federal Reserve is purposely pushing that, which is also, so it affects my investment strategy around debt, right? So right now I'm not taking out a lot of debt because of that. So it changes things. The other thing that it changes, I think, is it is affecting a lot of people in employment. And we see that probably here in Silicon Valley more than the rest of the country. But I think the rest of the country is coming. The Federal Reserve has promised that it's going to raise interest rates until jobs are lost all over the place. And seeing all these people lose their jobs is a big impact on financial futures, right? If I lost my job, I couldn't invest through this recession. So my thought process is I got to keep my job. I got to be good at it because I need to make sure that I stand out if cuts ever do come. And I got to make sure that I can continue to invest over this recession because of dollar cost averaging. That means that I get stocks on sale essentially while this is occurring, right? So I do think that even though I am more long-term focused, I don't sell, I hold everything for the future. I invest something like 65-ish% of my income. Like I go crazy hard at investing and I want to be able to do that through this recession. And I know that that's coming. I know that that's current. So I do think that there is like an impact to how you operate today that will affect the future. And I want to know how stuff that's currently happening is impacting that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the many things I appreciate about your channel. So yeah, I'm glad that you take that dive for us. But yeah, I want to thank you again, and of course, follow Wealthy Idiots, wealthyidiots.com. But is there any thing you want to specifically plug, or just go subscribe and go check out your stuff?
Yeah, go subscribe, check out our stuff, dig through the videos. We kind of shotgun topics. So if you're not keen on a particular topic, you don't have to keep watching that. We've got stuff about like, all these little details when it comes to car buying, investing in stocks, real estate investing. We try to cover everything. And if there's something that you're not seeing there, I promise you it's there somewhere. And if it's not there yet, it will be there. We'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah. He takes requests.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we answer like people's questions if we can. Like, in some cases we'll have slow weeks in comments and people will ask questions and I'll make a video out of that. Like I'll just straight up answer your question.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
if you got them,
That's a
send
good
them our way.
idea.
Yeah, that's great. Well, yeah, thank you again. It's been a pleasure being on your channel, have you on ours.
Yeah.
And can't wait to watch, even more of your videos and reconnect in the future.
Oh yeah,
All right,
for
thank you so
sure.
much,
We'll
guys.
definitely be reconnecting.
Yeah, and keep up the good work. I like your stuff.
Yes, sir. You
thank
too,
you.
man.